So back in 2019, in a partnership with Goldman Sachs, Apple unveiled the brand new Apple Card with a beautiful marketing strategy around the titanium physical card, how amazing it is, the zero fees, the 3% cashback at Apple stores, and it had a lot of hype going into 2019. But now fast forward to 2026, and earlier this year we got news that Goldman Sachs is parting ways with the Apple Card, and Chase is going to spend $19 billion to acquire it and bring it into the Chase ecosystem. So, with that news, and with almost 7 years of the Apple Card now being available, is it going to be worth it in 2026? Are there going to be any big changes? Is this now going to be a big player outside of just a cashback card? All questions that I want to ask and answer in this video. So let's see if in 2026, the Apple Card in the current state that it's in is still worth it for most people. Let's get into it. But now before we continue, if you guys do enjoy videos like this one, we go through all things Apple, both hardware and software, consider subscribing to the channel and help us get to 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. But now first, let's talk about the perks and benefits of having the Apple Card in 2026. So I figured the best way to show off the Apple Card and all its perks and benefits is to show you through the phone itself, because again, there's nothing really to be said about the physical Apple Card aside from the fact that it has probably the best clank out of any metal card that you see in the industry. But to pull up the Apple Card itself, all you do is you go into your wallet application, then tap on the Apple Card, and then this is going to be the Apple Card UI. This is one of the biggest selling points, but before we get into that, let's get into what you get from the Apple Card on paper, especially when compared to the rest of the competition from a credit card standpoint. So if we go to our three dots here, go to rewards and offers, scroll down to where it says how daily cash is earned, this is what you're going to see as a normal Apple Card user. So the biggest perk here from a cashback perspective is that you get 3% cash back on anything Apple related. So that could be Apple hardware. If you go and spend $1,000 on a MacBook Air, you're going to get $30 cash back in daily cash back, which is another rare kind of perk about the Apple Card, that it's daily and it's earned daily versus waiting to the end of the month to get a lump sum. And it's usable right away, which I'll touch on in a little bit with the Apple Cash Card. And again, that 3% cashback refers to anything Apple related, so hardware, anything software related, any in-app purchases, any services, so Apple TV, Apple Music, you will get 3% cashback every time you are charged from an Apple product. Then you get 2% cashback on any Apple Pay transaction. Now here in the US, it's becoming much more normal for that to be the occurrence. Back in 2019, it was only around 75% of merchants. Now 90% or more of US merchants accept Apple Pay. So this does almost turn into a 2% catch-all card, which is nice to see. So if you are able to use Apple Pay, so phone to Apple Pay terminal, then you're able to then get 2% cash back. And even with some retailers online, if you see an Apple Pay kind of logo, emblem, or button, that is also considered Apple Pay, meaning you get 2% cash back on that. And then anytime you have to pull out the physical card right here, that is when you get the 1% cash back. So actually using the physical card is the worst way to use the Apple Card, which is funny because Apple marketed this physical titanium card so heavily when it first came out. So that's just kind of funny that you start to learn that using the physical card is actually the worst way to use the Apple Card. And then there's also some partnership with some merchants. So if you go into this merchant benefits, there's some other merchants that do give you 3% cash back that are outside of like the Apple Pay category. So things like Ace Hardware, Booking.com, ChargePoint, Exxon, Hertz, Nike, the list goes on, Uber One, Walgreens. And then sometimes you'll even see some benefits where they double that for an extended period of time. I remember there was like a 6% cash back on Booking.com not too long ago. So again, do be on the lookout for things like that. Another big one or selling point about the Apple Card is that it's a zero fee card. So there's zero annual fee to hold the card, there's zero foreign transaction fees, zero late fees even, and zero over limit fees, which is something that people always hit you with outside of the Apple ecosystem. So it's good to know that even if you do pay late, or if you do maybe go over your limit on your card, there's no like overdraft fee, there's no fees for being late. As long as you do get the card paid eventually, there are no late fees. And now let's talk about the magic of the Apple Card. In my opinion, the Apple Card is great at teaching you what it's like to actually pay off your card in full and what benefits come from that. So you can see here that I have a card balance of $237 and it's due on February 28th. The UI, if you want to pay early, I can do that. You can see that it's green here. So the green amount, so it says make a payment by 11:59 on February 28th, and then it says pay January balance. So if I pay this, the card balance is $232, then I'm going to have no interest charges for that. But now if I go here, and if I pay less than that amount, it'll show you that my interest charge is going to be 50 cents. Now, again, 50 cents doesn't sound bad, but if I have this card maxed out and I'm paying the minimums on that, that 50 cents turns into $50, turns into $100, and then it's going to roll over your balance. So ultimately, you end up paying nothing but interest moving forward, and you're going to be owing money on this card forever. But that's what I like about it. You get the big exclamation point, it turns red, which is a negative color. So if I want to pay it off in full, it goes green. And then if I want to pay even earlier, it'll go blue, which is like the ultimate color to show, hey, you're paying off your entire card balance, even though you don't need to yet, and it's not needed by a calendar date. And you're going to have no interest charges right here. And you can learn more a little bit here, other amount, you can schedule it if you want to, as well as just pay it right there. So again, it teaches you by giving you different behaviors and different kind of key points with different colors and different exclamation points and icons to show you what it's like to pay your minimums versus paying it in full versus even paying early, which I love to see. And then another big perk of having the Apple Card, it is the only way to get 0% interest-free financing on Apple hardware directly from the Apple Store. Now, depending on how much the product is, you get anywhere from 6 to 24 months of interest-free financing. And again, this is perfectly all organized for you. So if I click on my three dots, you have the monthly installments section right here. If I tap on that monthly installments, you can see that I have a couple active ones right here, and you can individually choose ones to see how far along you are on paying some of these off. So for instance, there's an iPhone 16 here. My total paid on it has been $395. I still owe another $93. And the next installment date is going to be February 28th, and that's going to be a $28 installment period. And I'm still able to pay that early if I want to. And you can even see the transactions down here. Each one of these transactions does also go to daily cashback, which is great to see. You can click on the total finance just to get an understanding of how you got to that number. You know, I had a trade-in, I had all that good stuff to get that price down to $489. So again, everything's just very organized, very well kept. And you can see all the completed ones that I've had over the years. Because the only way that I personally use the Apple Card is for 0% interest-free financing when there are Apple products. Outside of that, I don't actually use the Apple Card at all anymore because I'm into points and miles versus cashback. But it's only beneficial for me personally for that 0% interest-free financing when there is a lot of trading credits, and also the return and exchange policies are a little bit more lenient on the Apple Card in my opinion. Another big thing here is going to be safety, privacy, and also encryption. So as you can see here, this physical card actually has no card number on it because it can scramble it and you can change the card in real time directly from the application if for some reason the physical card number gets lost. Because of course when this first came out, this is a little less common now, but you had to physically put in a credit card number for a lot of retailers and merchants online especially. You still have to do that for some retailers and that's still an available option. So if you do need to find that out, you just tap on this button right here. And then you can see all the information that's there. So you have a physical card number, and you can even request a new card number down here if something, for some reason, that number leaks in some situation. You can also have advanced fraud protection turned on and also have additional card numbers. So this card is very customizable in terms of what you can do. And then from a privacy and encryption standpoint, there's really nothing else like it out there because within seconds, you can change the card number and scramble that up. Of course, it's going to affect a lot of billing things. If you have monthly charges going on this card, you're going to have to go physically change it after the fact. But it's good to know that in a pickle, if your credit card does get leaked, you can change it with a click of a button. And now let's talk about the daily cashback as well as the access to the high yield savings account. So again, I'm not 100% sure how Apple and Chase are going to do this, if they're going to keep this high yield savings account for now. But the way that it stands in early 2026, it is still available to all Apple Card users. So first off, you see this weekly activity and the daily cashback number, which you see right here. If I tap on that, I'm able to see how much I'm earning in daily cashback. I have a transaction for $7.45. I think that was some sort of subscription. And of that, I was able to earn 22 cents in daily cashback, which can do one of two things. You can actually use it immediately with your Apple Cash Card, which is going to be right here. Everybody with an Apple Wallet has an Apple Cash Card. You can have it set up so your daily cashback just gets deposited into this account, and then you can use this however you see fit. You can transfer it to your bank. You can send money as if it's a Venmo or a Zelle. You can even use this with Apple Pay to pay things off in real time. Or you can have it set up how I do. So go back into our rewards and offers. You can see that I have my daily cash election to be sent to my savings account. I like this because it's a high yield savings account, so it's almost like compound interest in the background while also earning a good high yield savings account number. So you can see that the APY is currently 3.65 as of February of 2026. This is very dynamic and malleable depending on interest rates holistically to change, and you'll get an email for that matter, but it's never been lower than this, which is great. And you can see that over the last year, it just continuously increases because with every transaction, it gets added into this account, and then on top of that, I'm earning interest on the transactions that are happening from a daily cashback. So if you really start to compound this, it turns out to be a nice little kind of like nest egg that you have as an emergency whenever you do need it. And you can even add money outside of daily cash into this account. The only way to get access to a high yield savings account from Apple is if you have an Apple Card. If you do not have an Apple Card, you cannot just sign up for the savings account. Unfortunately, maybe that'll change with Chase because Chase is going to want to bring more consumers in that aren't just Apple Card users, but let's see exactly how it shapes out. As of today, 3.65% APY as an Apple Card user you have access to. So overall, what the Apple Card does better than pretty much any other credit card in the market right now is that it's got the best UI and UX for any credit card bar none. You do it all from your iPhone, you pay for it, you manage it, there's no portals, there's no points, there's no math, there's no delayed tracking, you get your daily cash back almost instantly within that same day. So there's nothing else like it on the market right now. Like I said, the daily cash simplicity is second to none. Most companies and most providers and banks will wait till the end of the month or your rolling period to give you your cash back. Not here. And of course, you have all the Apple ecosystem integrations, which again, you can't really compete because there's no other Apple Card that's integrated super well like it is with iOS here. But there's a couple things that the Apple Card just doesn't do nearly as well as the competitors, and that's what we got to talk about next. Well, now that we've discussed all the perks and benefits and the good that comes with the Apple Card still in 2026, let's talk about where the Apple Card kind of falls behind, especially when you take it out of its silo in the Apple ecosystem and compare it to competitors in its own space. So first is going to be those spending multipliers. The 1% cashback as a baseline is pretty outdated now at this point, and most cashback cards, if not all of them, do more than just 1% cashback as a catch-all card. There is that argument that the 2% cashback that you get via Apple Pay, now more than 90% of merchants accepting Apple Pay in the US, could be technically your catch-all period, but this 2% cashback is still a little bit under what some other zero-fee annual cards do in the same kind of industry and the same kind of competitive landscape. Another big thing that's missing from this is anything that goes outside of the Apple Card. There's no partnership, there's no kind of portal, there's no travel portal, no partner portal. This is a strictly cashback card that lives inside of your Apple ecosystem. Of course, you can get that cashback and then use that cash to spend money on whatever you see fit, like we saw with the daily cash card and things like that. But there's no transfer partners, there's no point system. So if you are somebody that's in that world and wants to accumulate miles and points versus cashback, then you're gonna have to look elsewhere outside of the Apple Card, at least the way that it stands right now. And then the biggest negative here, which again does fluctuate, is that there's no standard welcome bonus. In 2026, that's absolutely absurd, right? Most companies nowadays, especially if you have decent credit, will give you some sort of welcome bonus, whether on the Chase side with the Freedom Unlimited, they give you $200 after spending $500, and there's a bunch of other cards that give you similar perk from a welcome bonus, even with a zero annual fee card. Right now, the Apple Card, I think there is some sort of welcome or at least referral bonus, but most times out of the year, there is zero welcome bonus for the Apple Card, which in today's landscape is absurd in my opinion. But as I said, over the next year or so, the Apple Card will be slowly transitioning into the Chase ecosystem. And what does that mean exactly? We're not 100% sure of. Does it mean that you can now take those cashback points that you earned from the Apple Card that's now a Chase card and then kind of convert it into Chase points and then use it in the Chase travel portal? That would make this card almost invaluable moving forward because you get all the beautiful perks and benefits of the Apple UI, of the Apple ecosystem, of the Apple cashback and daily cashback, but then you can transfer it over into a Chase ecosystem and then transfer that out to hotel partners and airline partners. That would be a perfect situation. I'm sure that at first they're going to transition this slowly and then going to keep it siloed where not many things are going to change for the individual consumer, but then maybe Chase might start to reel it into the Chase ecosystem and bring Apple into the foray across its other kind of products and product categories. So if Chase even adds one of these four things, like a transfer partner, like something like a sign-up bonus, a category multiplier even, or even travel protections, this would really help out moving forward when it comes to the Apple Card being a much more competitive offering. Now again, Chase does have the Amazon Prime card, which is a Chase card technically, but that stays completely siloed from the Chase ecosystem, and Chase could do the same thing with this Apple Card, but here's to hoping that they bring it into the main products that Chase offers and makes this kind of a Freedom Unlimited or a Freedom Flex card, calling it maybe the Apple Card made by Chase. And then the last thing that should happen here with the Chase Takeover is that it should go from a Mastercard to a Chase Visa card. I'm not a huge fan of Mastercard here in the US because there are some vendors and some merchants that just don't take Mastercard. For instance, my wholesale shopping at Costco, where I like to buy in bulk and things like that to save money, they only take Visa. They do not take MasterCard. So I can't use this card. Not that I would, but if I wanted to use this card, I would not be able to use it at Costco. And I spend a good amount of my monthly budget at Costco to get food at wholesale discounts. So that is one thing to hope, that it becomes a Visa signature card and moves away from MasterCard entirely. So at the end of the day, who should get this card today in 2026? I do think that there's still a place and a customer base for the Apple Card. For instance, if you aren't really big into credit cards to begin with, but you are in the Apple ecosystem, in my opinion, this is a no-brainer, especially as an intro card, if you are responsible with your money, of course. Like I mentioned, the way that the Apple Card works and the UI works incentivizes you to be disciplined with your money to avoid any fees accruing by carrying your balances month over month. That's a trap that again, 70 to 90% of Americans fall into, where they pay the minimum balance, they stay up to date with their payments, but then they accrue interest over time, and then it ends up ballooning to the point where they can't pay off their credit card. So the Apple Card, the way that the UI is gamified and designed, actually helps against that versus other apps like Robinhood, which gamifies almost gambling and things like that. The Apple Card does the opposite, where it gives you big green lights and almost confetti and different changing colors, and the ability to reduce colors on your Apple Card digitally when you do pay off your card entirely. So I love that aspect about it, and that's who this Apple Card is for. It's for the intro person. It's for somebody who has a credit score that needs to be worked on a little bit. You are in the Apple ecosystem. You're a big digital wallet person. You would take advantage of the 0% financing via Apple. But this is not for the people that are credit card experts, right? The people that like to get miles and points and get incredible value by booking business class flights. That's not who this card is for, but hopefully that changes moving down the line. So let me know what you think. Are you an Apple Card user? Are you somebody who uses the Apple Card on a daily basis? Have you had the Apple Card, but it's kind of been dormant in your wallet for years? Are you excited about the Chase takeover? Do you not care about it? Are you somebody that would welcome this turning into a transfer portal and transfer partner kind of situation? Or does that just overcomplicate an already very simple card that has a lot of perks and benefits? Let me know in the comment down below what you think, but if you did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And also, if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, definitely check out one of these videos right here, especially this Apple Wallet video, which really teaches you the ins and outs of not just the Apple Card, but the Apple Wallet application holistically. You'd be surprised. But until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.